Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a collective haul video. I have saved up every single fragrance that's come into my life over the last 6 months. So whether that's being me purchasing it, whether that's me being gifted it by a friend, gifted it through PR, or whether it's something that I have won in a giveaway, I am just going to walk you through the whole lot and tell you whether I love those fragrances or whether I regret my choices. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews and also fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing, and please also like this video if you do enjoy this kind of content. So I think this video really reflects me as a person as well, because sometimes I'm just so logical and I'm so thorough in my testing, and I write wish lists of fragrances that I want to purchase. And then in other ways, I'm just a random blind buyer and I get it wrong occasionally. So we're just going to have a look at what I've been buying, and hopefully there's not too many that I want to declutter. But I'm pretty sure there are some, and in fact there's one that's already left my collection. So let's get on with this. So the first fragrance had been on my wish list for a while, and this was one that I just finally picked up from my wish list. So I have no regrets about this one. This one is Coco Mademoiselle Intense by Chanel. So I own the EDP of this, and I just tried this one in store and I tried it at a friend's house, and this one just was somehow easier. I think it's just because it's softer. Even though it says intense, really I don't think the name is quite right, because to me this is just more vanillic, more fluffy. Coco Mad can be a little bit in your face, can't it? And it can be a bit too much if you aren't prepared for that citrus patchouli hit. And this one is very much more like a fluffy vanilla, a fluffy spiced vanilla with some patchouli and with the citrus very much in the background in comparison to Coco Mademoiselle. I just find this one easier to wear, and it just feels a lot more me, I guess, in some ways. So that's Coco Mademoiselle Intense. That's a love. So the second fragrance is one that I won in a giveaway, and I tried this fragrance as a sample a few years earlier and I'd really enjoyed it. So I was really pleased to win this. So this is Nancy Meiland's Églantier. So Églantier actually means rose hip, and I won this fragrance in a competition where I had to present a version of myself using an AI app as a Bridgerton character. And that really sums this fragrance up, I think, for me, because to me this is a modern vintage fragrance. So this fragrance is so hard to describe. There's so much going on. It's such an interesting fragrance, and I think that's really why it's been one of my favourites so far this year, really. I think it's just stood out as something so different from everything else I've tried. So I'll have a go at describing this, but yeah, it's probably not the perfect description because it just is so complex. So to me, this opens with some white florals that actually stay throughout the fragrance. And the white florals are definitely some jasmine, but also something else. There's something else going on here, and I'm really not sure exactly what that is. There's also a kind of smell of straw bales outside in a summer field, a really sunny late summer field, that kind of smell of the straw in the field. Then there's also a creamy woodiness, but the woodiness is more of a redwood, so it's more like a mahogany kind of wood or a rosewood, one of those kinds of woods. It's also kind of creamy. There's also just a feeling of some saltiness, some herbal sort of aspects to this, and then also just some resins here as well. A super interesting fragrance, really strong, really long lasting. You don't need many sprays of this one. You can really overpower yourself very easily because it is so strong. But just a fragrance that I would really recommend trying. So yes, that one is definitely for sure a love. So that's Églantier by Nancy Meiland. So the next fragrance is one that I no longer have. It's already left my collection. I've already decluttered it. And this one was Paul Gaultier's Classique, the EDP, the old formulation from pre-2018. So it was reformulated again in 2018. They put it in a different bottle. But this version, I bought it because I have a vintage bottle of the EDT and I really like the EDT, but I've got a dabber bottle and I think I just want a spray bottle of it. I probably should just decant my little mini dabber really and just enjoy it and be done with it instead of looking for an EDT bottle. But I randomly, just out of the blue, bought this old EDP and it just wasn't for me. So the thing I like about the EDT is To me, it smells like Nag Champa incense, and it just is super powdery, but also vanillic, and also has that orange blossom. And this EDP just didn't have those aspects to it, so it wasn't as powdery. It was more of a creamy, boozy vanilla, but it also had some really heavy florals, and it felt quite strong and quite overwhelming to me. I mean, the EDT is strong, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't have that kind of nostalgic feel that I was looking for, because I used to really love burning Nag Champa incense, and I think I just want a fragrance that smells like that. So I think I'm going to continue my hunt for a vintage bottle of the EDT and maybe just enjoy my dabber as a spray for now. So that one has gone. I recouped all my money from reselling it, so nothing lost, nothing gained. But yeah, a lesson learned. I don't want the vintage EDP. So the next fragrance is one that I got gifted in PR, and it's Jardin Sandalwood Temple. I'd made a video describing all of their fragrances, and they'd given me a few samples to help me make that video. I think they gave me 2 or 3 samples to make that video. And, you know, I really do enjoy their fragrances. I think they're a really interesting company. I really like their ethics behind their fragrance company as well. So I was just overwhelmed to be offered this one. And they basically were offering these fragrances because they've redesigned their bottles. And I think they want their bottles to be better recognised, basically. I think they've added this kind of interesting lid to try and make them more distinctive and make them stand out a bit better, because they were very plain to begin with. But I think that also fitted the ethos of the company, really. So this one, I got to choose out of their entire range, and I chose Sandalwood Temple because I'd had 3 favourites at the top of my list when I made the review video. But this one I chose because I felt like it was the most long lasting. I felt like it was the most signature scent worthy kind of fragrance. This is something that I feel happy reaching for most days, and I just really do lack sandalwoods in my collection. I wanted another sandalwood fragrance, and I just think this is a really nice sandalwood. I think this is like sandalwood 101. It's got loads of different aspects of sandalwood, and that's what I really enjoy about this. So there's the kind of the warmth that you get more from the cedar along with the sandalwood, but then there's also just the creaminess or the milkiness that you get as well. Also, it's a little bit green, a little bit spicy almost. And there's also a little bit of a smokiness from some guaiac wood in this fragrance. So I just think this one just is really distinctive, but also really kind of relaxing as well. And I've just really enjoyed it. It's really long lasting, and it's something that isn't beast mode, but it isn't quiet either. So it's perfect for me. So this one, because I'd gone through their entire range, I tried all of their fragrances. It was a very well thought out decision which one to pick. This one is for sure a love. So that's Sandalwood Temple by Jardin. So the next fragrance was a naughty blind buy, and I was in TK Maxx and I saw this on the fragrance shelf in the corner. My local TK Maxx is really disappointing for fragrances. It normally has absolutely nothing there, and I just was intrigued by this one because I own the original Pillar fragrance that this is a flanker of, and I just really wanted to try this. That's why I bought it. Also, it wasn't very expensive. I think it was about £12, which is not very much at all, is it? So this one's Sparkling Love by Chopard. So this fragrance is completely different to the original Pillar fragrance. Nothing like it at all. I don't really see anything in common with the Pillar fragrance. I think this one very much is a wedding fragrance to me. It's a wedding guest fragrance. It's one of those kind of creamy white florals. It's a creamy tuberose fragrance with some brightness from some citrus, and it's kind of an orangey citrus to me, this. There's also some musk in the dry down, and really you get those notes throughout. It's quite linear. It doesn't really change. This one, I think if you don't have this scent profile in your collection, you can't go wrong. But I think if you have this already, it's something you've smelled. It's a solar white floral fragrance. There's nothing groundbreaking here, but it is a great value fragrance for this price point, I think. I think this is a really good fragrance. There's not a hint of soapiness here, which I think is something that makes this a winner for me. But I do think there's a little slight touch of ambroxan, and for that reason, I've not been reaching for this one as much as I might have done. I think this fragrance might be headed towards a Declutter, but I wouldn't say this is a bad one at all. So that's Chopard Sparkling Love. So the next 3 fragrances were bought as part of a bundle, and if they appear to be a little bit random, that's because they were a little bit random, because they're in a bundle, and I only wanted one of these fragrances, and that's the first one that I bought. So I was really looking to buy something to replace this fragrance in my collection, La Petite Robe Noire Plissé. And you can see there's not very much left in this bottle. And this is a fragrance that I tend to wear in springtime. I just think it's great for work. It's one of those sort of fresh, uplifting, but still quite powdery and fruity fragrances. And that's why this one's just nearly finished, because I just wear it a lot. It's an easy reach fragrance. It's something I wear when I don't know what else I want to wear. So the one that I bought to replace that, I think I got it wrong, because I think I should have got something a little bit fresher. I actually chose the original EDP, and I just don't think this one's for me. There's something about this in the opening. It's not fresh enough for me, that kind of smell for every day. I want something a little bit lighter than that. So this does dry down, and it does turn into the La Petite Robe Noire DNA of the powdery rose, the almond, the cherry, the dry cherry you get in this line, and also the licorice and the tea. But there's something about this which is not hitting right for me at the moment. I'm going to keep trying it, but I think this one so far is a regret, and it might be going towards a declutter, but I'm going to keep trying it. So that one's Guerlain's La Petite Robe Noire. So on the flip side, a bundle can sometimes give you a hidden gem. It can sometimes turn up something you've never thought to try, that you've never heard of, and that you can end up loving. And the one from this bundle that I ended up loving was this one, Nigritella from The Body Shop. So this fragrance came out in 2018, and I think this tells me everything that I'd forgotten about The Body Shop, that they had such really good fragrances only a few years back, only 6 years back, and I was missing out on trying this one. So this fragrance is a creamy yellow feeling floral vanilla fragrance. It's definitely got a gourmand feel to it. It's also got a powderiness to it. It's slightly green in a way, but it also just makes me think of bowls of flowers filled with pink sweets. And this fragrance is widely compared, I think, to Hypnotic Poison by Dior, the EDT version, and also the Sensuelle Flanker. I don't smell anything almondy here, but I can kind of still see the comparison between those two fragrances. I think this one is just something I can imagine myself wearing to bed. I can imagine myself, just this being an easy reach kind of fragrance. Maybe this is the replacement that I need for Plissé. Maybe I shouldn't get another flanker of La Petite Robe Noire, anything. So yeah, the first fragrance just wasn't for me, but at least that bundle provided with one of the three fragrances that I got. So Nigritella is definitely the highlight of this bundle. So the third fragrance in this little bundle is one that's as much of a surprise to me as it probably is to you. And this one is Britney Spears Fantasy. So clearly I did not buy this bundle for this fragrance, but having tried it in store and never really understood where the love everybody feels for this fragrance has come from, I guess it's nostalgia for a lot of people. I guess I didn't smell this around the time when it was released, so maybe that's why I don't feel it. But having tried this older formulation, I kind of get it, because I do find this delicious in a way. And there's something about this that is very attention grabbing. So this opens with a really bright fruitiness, and then there's that really very definite cupcake note in the dry down. I don't necessarily smell anything white chocolatey. There's something sort of creamy about this, a creamy vanilla, but there's nothing really that I would distinctively describe as white chocolate. But I definitely do smell the cupcake, and that surprised me. So I can tell I've got an older formulation bottle, because the really old ones have the gems around the collar, but the middling old ones have 4 layers of gems down the side of the bottle. The newer ones only have 3 layers of gems, which I found interesting to find out. I think I'm just going to keep this one for now. I don't think this is something that's probably going to stick around in my collection for a lot of time. It's not a love, but it's not a total regret either. I have enjoyed trying this one and experiencing it, and I am ultimately fascinated by the situation that's going on between Elizabeth Arden, Revlon, and also Give Back Beauty, with who's got the contract for the Britney Spears fragrances and how they got that contract. I really want to see how that whole thing plays out, and I'm going to keep this one until we get a resolution on that. So this one is Britney Spears Fantasy, and it's a keep for now. So the next fragrance was again a naughty blind buy, and this one had been on my wish list for a while. I'd heard loads of people talk about this one on YouTube, and it got me curious because it's discontinued and I couldn't try it, but I'd been to try the original fragrance of this line a few years ago in store, and I hadn't really enjoyed it, and that had kind of put me off buying this flanker. In the meantime, I'd sort of heard that had been reformulated, and that might have been why I hadn't enjoyed that original pillar fragrance. And so I decided to just give this a go and see how it went for me. So this one's Sensuous Nude, and it's by Estee Lauder. And I know a lot of people love this fragrance, so I just thought I'd try it. So this one is a powdery, woody sandalwood, and it's quite sweet and musky and quite dry feeling as well. But there's also a kind of feel of a coconut soap to me about this, which is something that I don't really hear from other people. And I never really heard anybody describe this as soapy. So this is also quite a solar feeling fragrance to me as well. But I think this one, the thing that shocked me was the fact that it's so close to skin. And I guess, you know, a fragrance called Sensuous Nude, it's not going to be a banger, is it? It's not going to be a room filler. It's going to be something quite intimate and quite skin-like. And I just didn't really clock that. But I didn't expect it to be so quiet that I can't smell it after about 15-20 minutes. And that's how this fragrance is to me. But I also wonder whether it's the weather that I've been trying this one in, because I did buy it in September. So maybe if I tried it in brighter, warmer weather, maybe I'd enjoy this more. So yeah, this one's just a bit soapy and a bit too quiet for me. And I think this one might be a regret. So that's Estee Lauder Sensuous Nude. So the next fragrance is one from a line that I absolutely love, and I've got a little bottle of the EDP, but there's not that much left. And I thought I'm going to get another flanker, and then when the EDP runs out, I won't be quite so upset. So this one is the EDT version, and it's the Le Premier Parfum version. And you can tell it's the EDT because when I turn the bottle around, it's got the little bite out the side, and it's in a heart shape, which I think is just so whimsical and cute. But this one I bought because Lizzie at Rose & Jones, she's a Lolita Lempicka super fan, and she rates this one as the best flanker. This is the one that's her forever fragrance, really, I think. But she also has Eau de Minuit, and I've tried that one from her, and I really love that one too. And if I can find a bottle of Eau de Minuit, that will be coming home with me. But this one, I just wanted this really because one, I wanted more of this line, and two, I wanted something I could wear in spring and summer, and this one's just more light and ethereal feeling to me. I think if you compare it with the EDP, the anise and the cherry are massively toned down in this, but the iris and the almond are much more prominent, so you get an ethereal powderiness, but it's quite a sweet powderiness, but nothing too overwhelming. It's just a gentler fragrance. It's got a little bit of a fruitiness to it, but it still is quite a strong fragrance. And it's something you don't need many sprays of. Really great longevity as well for an EDT. I don't think there's any problems there. So yeah, really pleased with this one. And this one's definitely a love. So that's Lolita Lempicka EDT. So talking of Lizzie, this next fragrance was a gift from Lizzie. So she bought a bundle of fragrances. I think she bought Nirvana Amethyst. And she said that she didn't enjoy this fragrance and would I like to try it. So she sent me the bottle because I said, yes, I'll try it. And this one is Nirvana French Grey. So this fragrance is really very adequately described by the 3 notes that are listed. It does open with neroli and it dries down into a soapy aromatic musk. And the neroli and the lavender do stay into the dry down. But it is very much an aromatic feeling fragrance overall, aromatic musk. This actually, in the early dry down, really makes me think of 90s style musks. It's slightly animalic to me. And I know that seems weird because in some ways this fragrance is super clean, but there's something not quite clean to me in the early dry down. Actually makes me think of sheep in sheds. And I know that's weird, but it's just a picture I get when I'm wearing this fragrance. If you love this fragrance, I totally get it because it is very distinctive. And I think it's really well made. I think for this price point, this is a great fragrance, but it's just not something that I've loved. So this one's a regret for me, and it will be heading towards a declutter, I think, unless I have some kind of epiphany with it. But right now, it's a no. So that's Nirvana French Grey by Elizabeth & James. So the next fragrance was a naughty blind buy, and I was just intrigued to try this brand because I saw that it was in the Liberty Advent calendar last year and it was just hyped a lot, and it just made me curious. So this one's from Grenado and it's called Jardin Real, and I'm sorry if you're Portuguese or if you're Brazilian and I've butchered that name, but that's my best attempt. So this fragrance comes in this little 10ml travel spray, and it really is very mellow orange citrusy white floral fragrance, and it's quite a creamy white floral fragrance. It's a orange blossom and magnolia fragrance really predominantly to me, but in the dry down there's sort of a finely milled white soap feel to this, and then muskiness. The thing that I'm not so sure about with this one is the fact that I smell some ambroxan here, or some kind of ambroxan related chemical, and that's just off-putting to me, but I can see that other people might just really like this one. If you're not sensitive to that, it's not going to bother you because it's quite mild. This fragrance I just think is a bit of a regret for me. It's not something I love, and I think I probably could have picked better from this range. I think there are maybe other fragrances in this range that I might have enjoyed more, but it hasn't made me curious to try more from this range, and I think this one might be being decluttered. So yes, this one's a regret for me. So this is Grenado and it's Jardin Real. So the next fragrance is one that was love at first sniff. I smelt it in the shop and I bought it immediately. So this one is from Lush and it's called Chelsea Morning, and in the UK this costs £20 for 30ml. So it's really affordable, and I just was astounded at how little this cost for how good it smells. So this is a really gourmand fragrance, and I'm not normally a gourmand kind of person, but this one just had me because it just is a very nostalgic British kind of style smell to me. It really takes me back to bonfire nights when I was little, really. I think that's the nostalgia that I get from this one, and it was released just before bonfire night as well in the UK, which I don't think was a coincidence. So this fragrance, it opens with lemon, but really it's a kind of butterscotch smell in the opening, and I sprayed this around one of my friends and they said, wow, that smells like butterscotch angel delight. They didn't know any of the listed notes at all, so it's clear that there is a butterscotch smell going on in this fragrance from that. And then also as this dries down more, I get more of a ginger biscuity kind of feel. There's kind of a feel of maple syrup here as well. It's just delicious, and it's really that sort of baked, caramelised biscuitiness that I think is so addictive and really makes me think of bonfire night. This on me lasts about 6 hours on my skin. I think it's really decent longevity, and it's still a love for me. I'm sure I'm going to keep this one. So that's a love, and it's Chelsea Morning by Lush. So the next fragrance is one that I got in PR, and I really wasn't expecting to get a fragrance in PR, but I'd been talking to this company called Bath House that are a small British brand, and they said that they were going to send me some sample sets, and I'm going to make a review video on these sample sets. Probably I'll bring that out in January because these fragrances are quite spa-like, and I just think that kind of ethos fits in with January, doesn't it? That's when people want that kind of clean feel. So anyway, I'm working on that. I've tried them all once so far, but I need to try them many more times to be able to talk about them confidently. So it's going to take me a bit of time to get round to that. But this fragrance, I think they sent it to me because it's their bestseller. And this one's called Patchouli and Black Pepper. And Bath House market all of their fragrances as unisex, and I totally agree with that. I mean, I don't agree with gendering fragrances generally, but these really, I don't think anyone could argue that they do have a unisex feel to them. They are very much a fragrance that you could share with anybody. So this one starts off with quite a green smelling patchouli, and I mean green as in minty to me. I'm sure there's other herbs here, but it comes off to me as a minty patchouli. And then as it dries down, it goes into a very warm, woody patchouli. And I like the transition from something cool smelling to something warmer smelling. This fragrance also has a slight sweetness to it, and I think that's really what takes it back from being just a purely aromatic fragrance. I can see why this might be a bestseller for them, because it is quite distinctive and it is quite different. So yes, Bath House, I'm going to fully review them in January, but I've been enjoying this one so far. So that's Patchouli and Black Pepper by Bath House. So the next one is my most expensive fragrance purchase ever, and this one is Amouage's Lilac Love. This has been on my wish list for a few years, so I was really happy when I saw it secondhand at a vaguely reasonable price. and I jumped on it, and I'm so pleased that I did. I've worn it since, and I've really been enjoying wearing it. I've worn it out with some friends and I enjoyed wearing it then. I really do feel like when you make an expensive fragrance purchase, there's that moment of doubt, isn't there? There's that moment of doubt that your sample won't be lived up to by the full bottle. And once you've worn it a few times and you've enjoyed it, you feel a bit more comforted about making this huge purchase. So yeah, I'm really pleased I bought this one. So the thing I love about this is obviously the lilac, but also that white chocolatey, powdery feel that this has, along with the kind of buttery creaminess that this has too. I think there's orris in this, and I think that really gives it a richness. I find this fragrance even a little lactonic and vanillic as well, and I think really the next one in my Amouage Odyssey that's in my list is probably Portrayal. I think Amouage are a brand that at the moment are going through a bit of a transitional change, and there are a few of the older ones that I kind of want to bag before they disappear. So yeah, Portrayal is probably the next one on my list. So I'd say Lilac Love is quite a long-lasting and strong fragrance, and I think this one is definitely a love for me, and this will definitely be in the keep pile. So that's Lilac Love by Amouage. So the next fragrance is one that I won in a giveaway. I was entering this giveaway with a company called Scented Samples, and I happened to be picked. They had 3 fragrances to give away, and I won Exalte by Funmi Monet. And I'm sorry if I've butchered that name, but I didn't know who she was. But apparently she's a massive influencer, and this is her first fragrance. It's described by a lot of people as smelling like Roses Vanille. And I totally get where they're coming from. It does have a feel of Roses Vanille. But I think Roses Vanille is brighter, and it's lighter, and it's more airy than this one. And it's also sweeter than this one. So I think this fragrance is perhaps more ambery feeling. It's also got a little bit of like an oudiness about it in the base, I think. But even though that's not listed, I don't think. And the lemon is less bright. And also the rose is much softer. It's just a softer feeling fragrance overall. And it doesn't have the punch of Roses Vanille. And it's not as long lasting as Roses Vanille. I'd probably still get 5 or 6 hours out of this, but I do think it's a little bit different to Roses Vanille overall. It just doesn't have the brightness really, is the overall summary. I think this is definitely heavier on amber. Amber is really the main note for me. You know, I'm perfectly happy with it. I didn't pay for it. I got it in a giveaway win, but I wouldn't say this is a love. This is something that I wouldn't buy if I'd have tried it before I had the opportunity to buy it. I do think this is a nice fragrance, and I do think some people might really enjoy this, but I am a bit disappointed that the bottle leaks. So I didn't realise this initially, but I started reading reviews and I was thinking, oh, I'm lucky because my bottle doesn't leak and everybody else's bottle seems to leak. And then I laid my bottle down and I realised that it leaks. So that's a bit disappointing. But yeah, I'll keep this one in my collection for now and see how it goes. But it's neither a love nor a regret really. So that's Exalte by Funmi Monet. So the final fragrance in this video, and hopefully my final fragrance of 2024, although I've got 3 weeks left of December, I could go nuts, couldn't I, in December and buy crazy amounts of fragrances. Hopefully I won't. But the final fragrance of December is one that I have been gifted in PR, and I'm truly astounded by this because I never thought I'd be someone who got PR, and really with my video back in April, which you may or may not have seen, I really was a bit thinking that I wouldn't ever get any PR because I thought maybe people would see that and think that I don't want PR, and that's not the case. You know, I do enjoy PR, but I don't say yes to a lot of stuff, to be honest. And I've turned down fragrances because, you know, if they're from companies that I know I don't like, and, you know, if I've tried 2 fragrances from a brand already and hated them, why would I want a bottle of the third one? So I am picky with PR, but I also just don't want this channel to turn into PR Central. Do you know what I mean? You know, when people just haul PR after PR and you think, do I genuinely know your taste? Do I know you? Who are you? I don't want it to get like that, okay? But I was interested in this one because I've tried it in store and I did like it, and I just thought I'm going to say yes to this one. And I'd like to just thank all of you lot because really the reason I get PR is because you watch me. And I know that so many people probably say this, but I find it overwhelming. I find this so unbelievable that, you know, someone who isn't very comfortable basically with being in the public eye. I mean, I hate talking at work. I hate standing up and giving talks at work. I have to really psych myself up. I have to practice massively. So to be able to sit here and talk to a camera and to feel like I'm in a community and talking to people, I just find that so unbelievable and so mind-blowing that I've now got 12,000 subscribers. That's astounding. So yeah, I've been gifted this fragrance and I'd just like to thank all of you so very much, and also the company that's given me this one very much as well. So this one's from Fragrance du Bois and it's called Sirène, but I'm just going to show you the packaging first because it's nuts. So this came in a pink velvet box, and the pink velvet box is lined with red velvet, because why not, hey? And the bottle has these little gems around the top, which I thought was quite bougie. And the fragrance itself, which is the most important thing, clearly. I mean, it weighs a ton, this bottle as well. Perhaps not the most environmentally friendly bottle on the earth, but, you know, a very luxurious feel. So the fragrance itself is based around the note of cherry. And I think when people think of cherry nowadays, they think of lost cherry, don't they? They think of boozy cherries, they think of almondy cherries, they think of that kind of, what do you call it, like Bakewell tart kind of cherry. This is not that type of cherry. This is a super fruity, kind of syrupy cherry, but in a sparkly way. It's a sparkly, syrupy cherry, but also with a ton of strawberry to me. It's very much a red, fruity, very kind of fresh feeling fruity fragrance. And it also has a kind of slight, very, very slight creaminess to it. Almost. Not quite. Slight creaminess. But there's also something that just brings it back from the sweetness, and that's the cypriol. The cypriol here is green, it's woody, and that really tones it down and just lets the oud kind of have it kind of links the oud to the rest of the fragrance. The oud in this fragrance is just a warmth. It's a warm kind of fuzziness in the base. And that's what you get in the dry down, the fruitiness with the warm fuzzy base. And the cypriol is quite distinctive here, and cypriol is really not a note that I generally get on with, and I don't find it troubling in this fragrance at all. I really feel like it adds something to this fragrance. I think I like this because it's quite gentle. I think oud and cypriol are quite punchy notes, and I think if you didn't have this right, it would really overwhelm this whole fragrance and be a complete mess. And it isn't. I think this is really nicely done, and it seemed to be quite long lasting the 2 times I've worn this. I don't feel like I've worn this enough to judge this fragrance, you know, completely, but from the 2 times I've worn it, it's lasted a decent amount of time. And this is not super strong. I wouldn't say this is beast mode, but I think you could dose it to be beast mode if you wanted that. But I think that I'm not someone who likes crazily strong fragrances, and I don't find this one overwhelming. I think this has been quite a success for Fragrance du Bois, and I see why, because it is very different. I don't think this is a typical fragrance that I would choose, and I don't think this is a typical price point that I would choose, but I have really enjoyed trying this fragrance, and I'm grateful to you lot and to Fragrance du Bois for letting me try this. So yeah, that's Sirène by Fragrance du Bois. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know what's been your best purchase of 2024. And also let me know if you tried any of the fragrances that I've featured in this video, or if you own any of them. I'd be really interested to know your thoughts, even if we disagree. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here with every video that I do. I am eternally grateful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.